Hey guys, it's Dr. Davis at the Davis Medical Group in East Texas. Today we're going to talk about the most important macro, the most important food, the thing that you cannot live without, protein. All right, so protein, like I said, is the most important macro. So let's break this back down. There are only three foods in this world: protein, carbs, and fats. And everything is made up of either some of that or all three of those. The one that you can't live without, the one that you just have to have, is protein. So it's always going to be the most important. It's going to be the most important part of a diet. It's going to be the most important part of you. You are made of protein, and without proteins, you couldn't live. So maybe we should break this down and first start talking about what the heck is a protein. A protein, there's a lot of different analogies. You know, I have a degree in molecular and cell biology. So all of that is the study of DNA and enzymes and amino acids and how your body builds things. Well, what does it build? Well, it primarily builds proteins. You have a constant turnover. I tell you, one of the most fascinating facts of the human body is that every 120 days, you're brand new. Every cell, from your hair down to your toes and everything in between, is new. It can't stay the same. It can't stay static. Even your scar tissue changes and is new. So in the clinic, I tell people all the time, in 90 days from now, when I see you in for your follow-up visit, you will be a completely different human being, made of all the stuff that you have eaten and all the things that you have broken down, recycled, and rebuilt. Well, so therefore, protein is what you're mostly made out of, right? This is protein, right? This is protein. This is all cholesterol mixed with protein. Your muscles are all protein. So the thing I want you to visualize is there's this constant turnover. Everything has to be built and torn down and rebuilt. Imagine if you built a house. If your body was a house, this is what it would look like. You would build it, and then you would immediately start tearing stuff apart and rebuilding it. Now, it would always look ideally the same. It would look ideal. And then every 120 days, you have a brand new entire house again. So you have to have a constant delivery of supplies coming in, constant truckloads of supplies, new shingles, new 2x4s, new sheetrock, because you can't stick with the old one. You've got to redo it and redo it and redo it. That's how your body stays healthy. It regenerates and rebuilds. So the numbers I want you to realize here is that you're going to be losing things. So we're going to break this down into four sections. The first section is protein is the most important macro. Protein, carbs, and fat, macro. You have about a 200 gram a day turnover of protein. So we're always going to talk not in calories, but in grams. But if you were talking about calories, that'd be 800 calories a day of protein turnover. But 200 grams of protein a day turnover. Now, your body is extremely efficient at recycling and reusing it. And so it's going to tear it down to its amino acid bases, a base, and then it's going to rebuild the amino acids back up. It's not a base, the foundation, the amino acid foundation. It's going to rebuild it back up and reuse and rebuild and reuse and rebuild. Now, proteins are like little robots. So have you ever been on a cruise and you open the door and there's this towel folded into the shape of a scorpion or an elephant? And you're like, wow, it's just a towel. Actually, it's not even just a towel. It's just string. It's just for cotton from a plant. So it started as a piece of cotton, and then it got twisted into fibers, and those fibers got woven into a sheet, and that sheet got folded into an elephant, right? Well, guess what? It's still all the same thing. That's what proteins do. Proteins are made up of amino acids. Amino acids are basically sugar. It's a carbon backbone. So it's a string of carbon. You are a carbon-based life form. So it's fundamental. Everything is carbon. Sugar is carbon. Everything's carbon. Carbon. It's strung together. So proteins is the big word. So when we come down to amino acids go down to carbons. Carbons strung together, and then with a nitrate group screwed on the top, makes the different amino acids. There are basically 22 of them. 20 primary human ones and a couple extra that you get from other places. Imagine you had 22 different Legos, and you had to build a castle. All right, you would need all different shapes and sizes. Well, that's what your body does. It makes all these amino acids and it strings them together. And when they plug into each other, they bend, fold, twist like origami. You take a piece of paper, fold it, and you have a little swan. And as you pull the little swan tail, the wings flap. That is a protein. All right, proteins are robots. They do the thing that they're folded into, the shape that you need them to do, and they do that. They also If you need something done in your body, you're going to make a protein. You're going to string this long string of DNA, turn it into RNA, piece the amino acids together, and you're going to make these three-dimensional structures that actually turn into a machine, like a car, or they turn into like a plane, or they turn into like a vacuum cleaner. Those are proteins. You got to build those things out of single line of DNA, eventually into a folded three-dimensional origami robot that does things that you need it to do. All right, so it is the most important thing. You cannot live without it. Have you ever heard of an enzyme? An enzyme? Well, an enzyme is a thing that causes something to happen. So if you need to go 1 = 2, the enzyme is the plus. It's the thing in the middle that allows this to happen. So if you have a little machine, a little computer, let's say, that's your protein. Your body built this computer and it can do all kinds of stuff. Well, what is it supposed to do? I don't know. You need a program or an app to plug into the bottom of it. Well, this is a protein. The computer is a protein. The app is a protein. Well, this is an enzyme. An enzyme is a protein that connects to another one and causes a thing to happen. Well, nothing can happen without enzymes, and nothing can happen without the proteins. So please take my word for this. You can live without fat. You can live without sugar, but you cannot live without protein. So I mentioned that you have a 200-gram turnover, roughly 200-gram turnover, depending on your size, every day, but you only lose 10 or 15 grams of protein. So how much protein do you need? You must get about double that, because you're not going to absorb all that. So you must have 30 to 50 grams of protein, or you'll die. You'll go into protein calorie malnutrition. So you must have it because you're losing it. Your hair falls out. There goes some protein. Your digested enzymes, remember, enzyme is a protein. You're squirting enzymes all over your food and you're pooping it out. And there you go. There's some more losses. Your fingernails are growing. Your skin is sloughing off. Everything has enzymes in it. Everything has proteins in it. And you constantly have to recycle it. But more importantly, remember, you're tearing stuff down and you're rebuilding it. You're tearing it down and you're rebuilding it. So that cycle of protein has to continue. So we now know what proteins are, and we know that they're the most important macro. What's next? Number 2, what do proteins do? Well, everything. Everything. If your body needs to do something, your body uses proteins or enzymes, which are also proteins, to make it happen. So for example, if you need to build something, let's say you need to build a fingernail, you're going to take these structures, you're going to fold them out, you're going to straighten them out, you're going to bend them, shape them, bond them together, and you're going to make a fingernail, or an eyeball or a hair. Remember, all of this, even these wrinkles, are brand new. Every 120 days, you'd have to remake them. So if you can build things with proteins, you have to have them. You can't build that castle out of Legos without Legos. So you have to have the protein. Repair things. All right, so somebody shoots a cannonball at your castle wall and puts a hole in it. Or you kick your shin against a brick molding. Or you pull your fingernail back. Or you stab yourself in the eye. Everything has to fix. So you bring proteins in as repair mechanisms and raw material to rebuild things. Isn't it fascinating how your body puts itself back together? Fascinating. That's protein. Oxygenate. So for example, you take a red blood cell and it has one job: carry oxygen and carry CO2, lungs back to back, from the lungs back to the tissue, back to the lung again. Well, it needs to do that, so it orders up a bunch of proteins, puts the proteins inside of itself, and then that can bind to oxygen and carry the oxygen where it needs to go. Protein. So oxygenation. Digestion. You eat food, you need to squirt digestive enzymes on that food to digest it. Well, what do you do that with? Enzymes. Well, what are enzymes? Proteins, right? It's a little robot that's programmed to do something, and you squirt it on there and make it happen. You build it like a 3D printer. You make things to do things. Regulating hormones. You can't just dump out a bunch of hormones, right? They'll just go crazy. You got to have some kind of secondary regulation. So if you have your testosterone floating around or your thyroid floating around, you have proteins in the bloodstream that can bind, like you got 5 testosterones, but you only need 1. Boom, it'll grab these 4. So you make proteins to bind to hormones so that you can regulate them. Well, all of a sudden, let's say you need all 5 hormones. The protein will let go. Boom, and you've got all this protein, all these hormones floating around. So hormone regulation. So you got to build, repair, oxygenate, digest, and regulate hormones. That's what they do. And don't forget, your body is brand new, all of it, even the scar tissue. Every 120 days, you are a brand new human. Oh, that's powerful. If you make changes today, within 90 days, every cell in your body doesn't know what you used to be like. Every cell in your body is brand new. Every cell in your body has the opportunity to live a new existence. You can imagine that if you had a horrible life and you were able to then wait 90 days and make some changes, and every memory is gone and everything about it is gone. All of that stuff is brand new. So it's a powerful, powerful tool. Your body is dynamic. It is always changing. It is never the same. And so changes that you make now start paying off pretty rapidly if you'll just give it a chance. All right, so now we talked about what proteins are, what macro it is, and what proteins do. So now, okay, how much do you need? Well, you need at least to replace your losses. So there's 6 to 12 grams. You at least need to have enough to rebuild things that have been damaged or injured or no longer usable. So there's you another 30, 40 grams. So if you're just trying to stay alive, you need 35 or more grams a day. You will not be thriving. Let's say you're muscular and you're trying to get stronger and bigger. You're going to need more. So I would argue that you should take your perfect ideal weight that you're trying to get to and multiply it times 1. That's a lot. It's more than you need, but it's not more than you need to feel better and get stronger. So I think the ideal number seems to be the consensus after everything you look at and read and look at. The consensus for an active, healthy person trying to rebuild their body and keep it strong is 0.75 times your ideal weight. Times your ideal weight. What is your ideal weight? I don't know. You do. That weight that you feel like you would be perfect. I mean, you could look it up on a chart, but honestly, my ideal weight for my height is way heavier than the chart says. And I'm muscular. I got big, thick legs. So, I'm going to have more muscle on me. Somebody else might have little bitty bird legs and they're going to have a different weight despite their height. You get to choose where you're going from. So reach around, grab the side of your body there, or even right here when I bit my neck. Ooh, look at that. There are places on your body where you have stored fat. Stored it. All right, you better start using it. So we're trying to use all the fat up, but you can try that as hard as you want. You're still going to store fat. Your body must do that. It's part of its programming. So you've got sugar and fat stored. You got sugar stored in your muscle and your liver. You've got sugar reserves. Rhetorical question: where do you store your protein? No such thing. You cannot store protein. So you need a constantly supply. There is no reservoir. So if you're going to run low on protein, some pretty significant things start happening to your body. You start eating yourself. You start breaking things down that you need in order to provide protein. And that's a bad news because you start breaking down, you lose your hair, you lose your skin, you lose your muscle, you lose everything. You break it all down because you got to have that protein. So be sure and realize that you do not have a protein reservoir, no reserve anywhere. You've got fat reserves, you've got sugar reserves, i.e. fat, you've got sugar reserves in your muscles and in your liver, but you don't have protein reserves. So you must continue to eat it. It is the most important thing to keep in your diet no matter what. You have to have it. All right, so which protein should you eat? Well, it comes in bioavailability. Whatever you eat, protein-wise, doesn't necessarily mean you absorbed it. So the most power-packed version of protein is going to be whey protein, or it's going to be some kind of animal protein. So animal protein has the most bioavailability, let's say 96, 97%. If you eat a gram of protein in a whey form or in an animal form, you're going to get most of it. And so ideally, and again, you know me, I'm a carnivore. I'm not telling you to be, but I'm telling you that the most powerful protein that you're going to get is animal protein. But you can get it from plants. I'm not going to argue with you. You can do that. It's just hard to get it just the protein. All right, so what are we going to do? Number 4, the big section here, the section I think that you're really going to care about. Eating protein to help you lose weight, right? If you ever talk to people that have weight loss surgery, don't do that unless you have to. What do they make them eat afterwards? Pure protein. I mentioned this before. There's a show on TV called Alone, and these are survivalists go out there and they eat nothing but lean animals. All these animals in the Arctic and Patagonia and all these places have trouble putting on fat, so all of them are full lean protein. And they can lose tons of weight eating nothing but protein. So why does protein help you lose weight? Well, it is the most filling food that you get. Why? Because it does some really, really amazing things. It triggers satiety, fullness. It triggers that feeling of fullness, the fastest of all the macros. It causes a decrease in hunger hormones. Which one? Ghrelin. Spell it right up here, ghrelin. The lower your ghrelin, the less hunger you have. What about peptide YY? You may hear me talk about peptides a lot. It's an amino acid string. That's a peptide. It's almost a folded protein, but a peptide is a protein string. I mean, an amino acid string. It's going to have effect on your body. It does things to you. So peptides are pretty powerful. Peptide YY makes you feel full. So you drop your ghrelin, you raise your peptide YY. Why? Because protein does that. That's what it does. So protein decreases hunger. It is the most filling food that you can eat. So you can eat the same amount of calories of fat or carbs or protein, and the protein is going to increase with weight loss and decrease snacking the most. Why? Hormonal benefits. All right. You can't get lean without eating protein. So what else does protein do? It increases your muscles and your strength. Muscles are made from proteins, right? If you think about the kind of in that rudimentary sense, muscles are made from protein, right? They're made from other things too, but protein is what their major structure is. And muscles constantly are torn or injured. And so they're constantly being repaired. They're the thing you use the most. And so they're constantly being turned over and over again. And you want to feed that body protein so that you got the healthiest muscles that you can have. If you increase your protein and you're in a calorie deficit, so let's say you're eating less calories than you need so that you'll lose some weight, but you feed your body protein, then you'll help maintain muscles despite losing weight. Now, you can't burn fat and feed muscle at the same time. So, but you can burn fat and protect muscles. Now, you're still going to lose a little bit of muscles, but let's say 9 out of 10 pounds are fat and not muscle. If you put yourself into a calorie restriction and you don't eat a lot of protein, you're going to lose way more protein to fat. So our goal with weight loss is to lose as little muscle as possible, and eating protein at a much higher level, 0.75 to 1 grams per pound, will give you protection for your muscles. Not complete protection, but protection for your muscles. All right. So you've gotten full because you've eaten your protein. You've gotten better, stronger muscles because you've eaten your protein. Did you know that protein also builds and protects bones? If you increase your bones, you have your protein, there have been plenty of studies that show you have a decreased risk of osteoporosis and fracture because you've protected your bones. All right. Well, don't we worry about that as you age? So the elderly, unfortunately, are in a class of people that were brainwashed. So they should eat whole grains and lots of vegetables and avoid meat because it's bad for you. It can cause cancer. It make you block your arteries. Unfortunately, they're killing their protein. So their bones are getting super weak and their muscles are getting super weak. And when we talk about elderly, we talk about loss of lean muscle mass and weak bones. And they're also forcing themselves to eat like a bird. You need to increase your protein, particularly as you get older. You have to figure out a way to get that 0.75 per gram, okay? And so that's important, better bones. All right, so you go to your doctor and you get a weight loss pill. What does it do? Frankly, it increases your dopamine, right? Dopamine. People that take ADHD medicines, they increase their norepinephrine and dopamine, they have trouble eating. Their appetite is gone. We have medicines for binge eating. What do? They're stimulants. They increase your dopamine. Guess what protein does? It increases your dopamine. So if you increase your dopamine, you have decreased hunger and cravings, or more, maybe even a better way to say that, you have more focus and more attention ability so that you can control your cravings. So you will have less cravings because of the hormones we talked about earlier, and you feel fuller longer, and it's easier to resist the temptation of overeating and cravings because your protein has filled you up and made you feel satiated, made you feel full. So protein intake at the level we've talked about decreases your cravings and your snacking. All right, so you may have heard this in a previous video, but all foods are made from carbon. All foods are made from sugar, basically. Fat's basically a stored form of sugar. Sugar is obviously sugar. Grains are sugar. And protein is basically sugar. It's an amino acid, but that's a carbon chain that can be broken down and thrown on the fire just like any other carbon chain. Sugar is a carbon chain, by the way. And so you can hit the cycle. It's called the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle is the cycle where you generate cellular energy. It's like dropping a coin in a machine. It goes ding, 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 ding. And all along the way, pennies are thrown off. Cellular energy is thrown off. You drop another sugar in there. Ding, 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 ding. Well, protein interrupts that cycle. Or starvation interrupts that cycle. So you wind up with a default exit. And so protein comes in here and fills that cycle back up again. So you're able to keep that Krebs cycle burning. In fact, it takes energy to burn protein. Think of it this way. If you took a pan of water that's full of calories, that's protein, and you set it on a stove, but you did not turn the stove on, you wouldn't cook that protein and you would get no energy out of it. But if you turn the oven on Now you're spending money, right? Your electricity bill is going to go up, but you're going to boil that water and you're going to get a lot of heat and energy from that protein. So to burn protein for fuel, it takes calories to do that. So you get calories from burning the protein, but you spend calories to get the protein cooked. What about fat? No, it just dumps it in. It's like dumping a whole nother bucket of food in there. It's like slop in a trough. What about protein? It burns clean. To break it down, to cut the amino acids, cut the nitrate group off, to take that, rip it apart, throw it on the fire. It takes energy. So you burn more metabolism. You have more fat burn and metabolism burning because it took the stored fat to burn the protein as energy. So the more protein that you eat, up to that number I told you earlier, the more calories you burn on a weight loss program, or just in general, the leaner you will get. Eating protein makes you lean. You can't get lean without protein. So the terminology for using protein to burn calories is thermogenesis. Thermo, heat, genesis, generating heat. And so burning protein for fuel burns more calories. So you get smaller. You have it's like a candy bar's worth of calories burned in a day extra because you ate adequate protein and use that as your primary food source. Or not primary food source, but this food source based on the calculations we mentioned earlier. What else good does it do for you? Well, it helps you keep weight off. Increased protein, less cravings, more fullness, less snacking, less calorie intake. Protein does all those good things we talked about. It raises your ghrelin. It lowers your ghrelin. It raises your peptide YY. It makes you feel full. It hits your satiety button. It gives you energy that burns longer. Goodness, you can't go wrong. You have to have the protein. It's so important. Increased protein, increased thermogenesis, increased calories burning. You keep the weight off. I mean, my personal journey, I've lost 90 pounds and kept it off, right? And my diet is primarily protein and fat, almost no carbs. I've never felt better. Is that the diet for everybody? Yes. But does everybody agree with me? No. But that's your call. You can do what you want. How's that working out for you? You can overcome a bad diet with exercise if you have the fit enough body to handle that, but you're never going to thrive. And so it's a matter of trying to get yourself as healthy as possible. The fundamental nutrient will always be protein. And where should that protein come from? I don't care. Once you've chewed up and swallowed it, it's protein. But the most absorbable protein comes from animals, right? So if you're going to supplement with protein, you should use whey protein if you're not allergic. If you're going to eat protein, you should use food that has a lot of protein in it. You should calculate that. Eggs, meat, animal products, protein, protein, protein. So that's the protein in a nutshell. It's so important. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching this. I hope this helps in your weight loss journey, in your weight gain journey, in your health and wellness journey, in your journey to avoid age-related diseases. Again, this applies to you. The older you are, the more important protein is. So you have to have it. Protein is crucial. You got to eat it. You need it. You're going to use it. You're going to burn it. You've lost protein since you've been watching this, and hopefully you ate enough protein before you watch this that you're regenerating all those tissues. Remember, you're a brand new person every 120 days. You are not the same person. Look at a picture of yourself anywhere in the past. That's not you. That's old you. That's a person who's been turned over multiple times. Imagine rebuilding your house every 120 days, all of it. That's what your body does. Stomachs every 3 or 4 days. Brain cells is nowhere near 120 days. Every 30 days or so, you get brand new cells. You have an opportunity to fix them with your diet and make new human, a better version of yourself. So, Dr. Davis, East Texas. If you like this video, give me one of these. I appreciate it. Subscribe for more. I'm constantly putting more up here as things come up in the clinic. I'm making a new video. Have a great day.